This week we're going to be talking about repairing after the conversation. So we've been talking about how the nice guy needs to communicate, needs to express how he feels, needs to show up authentically with however heavy the emotion may be, and he needs to stop seeking approval, always seeking to be approved by others to make sure that he feels worthy, to make sure that he feels loved, and so he doesn't get rejected and abandoned. So today we're going to be talking about actually having these conversations with people, whether it's your intimate partner, a friend, or a family member. Now we're going to focus on the intimate partner focus for this today. I've just had a experience that really aligns with this week's topic, this week's agenda, and I wanted to share that with you guys to play in real time what this can look like in a good or a bad way. So, as we've said, the nice guy will tend to restrict what he says or how he feels to his own detriment and to the detriment of his relationships. And over time, this can grow a bit heavier and weigh him down. So if he's constantly holding back anger, it starts to leak out as passive aggression. If he's holding back fear at times, he can start to say that he's going to do all these things and try to impress someone, but with the reality of that fear, he never really follows through with what he says, so people lose trust in him, his partner loses trust in him. So I want to speak to you on this point of communication today. If you're actually starting to have these conversations, if you're listening to these messages here, if you're doing the work for yourself and you want to integrate it into your relationships, what does that actually look like? So I had an instance just yesterday where I came home from work in the morning and I just picked out a few things that I didn't like around the place with my partner. And I'm quite notorious for doing this at times, but this was an instance where my partner kind of bit back with it. She didn't appreciate it, and she didn't do it in a damaging or an aggressive way, but I was the one to get a little bit triggered by it. And I can go to point the finger at why I think that is, but to own the feeling that I had, I just felt angered. And in that moment, I didn't realize why I was reacting that way, why I felt so flustered by it. And it took me some time to really land on where this anger was coming from. And realistically, these things that I was pointing out, why I needed that sense of control over my environment and why it was stressing me out. So how it went after this is that after I got angry about it, I immediately started putting my gym clothes on. I was like, you know what? I need to go get rid of this energy. Like, I'm feeling stressed out, and I was basically in fight or flight mode. So I just wanted to go to the gym and do a workout. And in the past, this has been good for me. I often don't announce it to my partner that I will go train and go do my thing, express movement, get rid of a bit of that pent up anger, and then come back for some resolve with the conversation or the argument that had been had. But in this instance, I didn't wind up leaving. My partner got a bit emotional, and then I had sat down and I went into this fight or flight rage to just almost a shut down feeling where I'd felt all this energy pent up, and then I just kind of switched it off and let it drop back down. And this reminded me of where I started to, I guess, build some of these traits in the environment that I grew up in. Let's say I would get reactive or emotional about something, the other person's emotions would then 10x that, and I would feel like my emotions weren't just valid at that point there, that because the other person became the victim in that situation, that I would have to shut off, and that there was just no point of me being emotional at all because it just got drowned out. And I've actually seen this in relationships in my adult life where something's come up, I've named something, I'm actually trying to make a boundary or just talk about something with my partner, and they get emotional about it, so I just shut down. I'm like, well, what's the point if I can't express how I'm feeling or be emotional because you just take over? So this has been a challenging part for me, but in this instance, I would say I've made a little progress, because what happened was after that, I took the time to really name what was going on for me in this situation here. So a part of this communication process was learning to identify why I was feeling the way I felt, why I felt angry, and what was actually sitting under that. Was it really the fact that whatever the object was that wasn't put in the right place, was it really bugging me that much? Or did I need a sense of control and certainty in my environment because that's what I was lacking in my life. And that's realistically what it was. So a big part of yesterday's conversation was really experiencing this integration of what I'm talking to you guys about in feeling the emotion, being able to embody it, not having an outer body experience, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. It sounds cool, but it's not. And sharing that with my partner, and she was so grateful after, because in the past where I've just shut down and there's been no emotion there, she's left in the loom wondering what it is, how am I feeling, what am I thinking, is there certainty and safety in this relationship? This is one of the main challenges for nice guys, is that in their relationships, because they're always putting on this front and they're tucking away emotions, or then on the opposite end, they just become so explosive and so reactive, there's no sense of safety for their partner, or maybe even for their friends or family members as well. I'm sure we can all relate to this in the family dynamics. So in this instance here, I named how I was feeling, I named why I was feeling that. And for me, just to share the context, I was just stressed about these changes that I'm making from spending my life being a personal trainer to trying to move into like men's work and more of a facilitator role in this area, whilst having my foot in that door still and trying to make both things work. And at times I feel like I'm not making any ground, I'm not making progress there. The future's uncertain, right? So I'm trying to at least have some certainty and some control in my environment at home. And that's what was really stressing me out. I was scared and I was angry. And then I projected that into a situation at home. And then I allowed that to be the trigger for me to not erupt, but just get angry at my partner. And I was kind of proud of myself in this instance that I took the time to name it, express it, and actually walk the walk with what I'm talking about to you guys here and communicate it across to my partner. So now I just want to give you some context to what this might look like in your life. So what went well for me in that situation is that after we'd had a conversation or a bit of a tiff, how we actually repaired that realistically was just me naming how I felt, what caused me to feel that way, and how that impacted what first led to the argument in the first place. Now, fair enough, if it was an instance where it was truly just what I was saying, you would still have this same process, right? Like if your partner, your friend, your family member has overstood your boundaries, they have wronged you in some way, you still do the same thing. I feel this way as a result of this thing occurring here, and this is how I'm feeling about the situation, and I'm feeling a bit of frustration or sad, whatever the emotion may be towards that person there. So how I've managed to stuff this up in the past would be when I just get too explosive and I leave the house and I don't tell my partner. Like, I've probably got every intention and I know that at some point I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about it, but just letting them know. On this point of safety and certainty, we all crave it as human beings. Like, just think about it. You want to know that you've got the job tomorrow because you want to know that you've got the bills coming in next week that will be paid for by the money that you get paid for by this job here. In relationship, you want to know that that person loves you tomorrow, next week, and next year, right? You want to have that certainty and safety because without it, it feels a little bit chaotic, unstable. You're not sure how you would handle life without your job or without that person, even though you would probably adapt pretty well. So in this instance, it's important that if you are someone who is having that kind of fight or flight reactive response, and a lot of time for guys, this is anger. If you feel like you need to just release and let go of that, and you need to go hit the heavy bag in the gym, you know, lift some weights, go for a run, at least let them know that you're going to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have a very angry partner that you've left in the loom, and they've been left with this feeling of uncertainty and unsafety. And if you've ever had this experience, just imagine what that feels like to you. What does feeling unsafe and uncertain feel like to you? And try to put yourself in that other person's shoes. Now, on the other side of it, if you are someone that's just shutting down, and now I'll describe to you what that may feel like for you, but I'm going to talk about it from my experience. In my experience, shutting down literally feels like I'm having an outer body experience. So I'm not embodied. So I feel like I'm a static TV, like literally my head just feels like it's just fuzzy. there's no emotion that's coming through there. There's no anger, there's no sadness, there's definitely no happiness in these moments. And I even feel a bit disconnected from my body and my breath. So if you're getting into this shutdown mode, this withdrawal, and maybe just like me, it was because in the past in relationships or with family members, as soon as you expressed emotion, their emotions just amplified and yours just got drowned out, and you've just learned to shut down. In those moments, the first two things that you do to bring yourself back into your body: re-engage with your breath. Deep breaths in through the nose, out through the nose. Just start to slow the breathing down. If you can, start to engage the diaphragm with some belly breathing. The second thing is what we would call resourcing, or you could even call it like earthing, grounding. Just notice where your feet are on the floor. If you're standing or if you're sitting, if you're laying down for whatever reason, just notice the points of your body that are making contact with the surface beneath you. Start to get back into the physical body, see how that feels. Re-engage with the breath. When we start to go into these shutdown modes, we disconnect from how we're feeling. So if we can firstly get back there in a physical sense, then maybe we can start to move back into some of the emotions that may be surrounding. What was the emotion that you felt before you shut down? All right, there was a bit of anger there. There was a bit of sadness there. There was a bit of fear there. Okay, next question. Why was I feeling that? What caused me to feel angry, caused me to feel sad, caused me to feel scared? Then you can start to express that to your partner, given that you've got the time in that conversation to do so. If you just run off to the gym because you're in fight or flight, or you shut down and just go to the room and you're a couch potato or a zombie because you're in that freeze mode there, your partner's not going to have any sort of resolve in that situation, and you may not have to have that resolve immediately there. But at least if you can learn how to express where you're at that point, you just need some time. You just need the workout. You just need to go do some breath work by yourself, take a walk, or just sit down for a bit and get back into your body. At least you're giving them that certainty and that safety that you're here to actually have some sort of civil conversation with them. Now, the only thing I'd leave it on this point here is that these conversations aren't always going to go well. So we're talking about what to do when it goes well, what to do if you do need to have that kind of release and get out of there and then come back to it, or if you've shut down and you need to get back into your body. But what if you've approached it in a very grounded way? You've felt anger, you've expressed how you felt, what caused that, and maybe your partner, your friend, your family member has wronged you in an instance and they're not taking responsibility. It is still our responsibility to note how we are feeling and express that and talk to the other person. However, if they can't respect that and if they can't be responsible for their own emotions, that's not our responsibility. We can be there for them, we can hold space for them, but we're not responsible exactly for how they feel. And we're going to have instances, whether it's in an intimate relationship or a friendship, where other people may not be playing ball. Maybe they are walking over you, maybe they're not appreciating you, maybe they're disrespecting you, whatever it may be. And in this instance, and this is by no means necessary therapy advice or psychological advice for you, this just is another man's experience. Those are the times where a truly grounded and integrated man is going to respect himself for giving the relationship his best shot, but understanding that the other person isn't showing up for him. And that's where he's got to make that more challenging decision. And that's probably going to be one of the hardest decisions that you make, because that's where we have to deal with that emotion of grief, of the love that will no longer have a place to go if we end that relationship with an intimate partner, or maybe with a long-term friend whose values and beliefs just don't align with yours anymore. You're on different paths now. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I just did a video before this just for Instagram as a part of my men's mentorship that I'm a student in or participating in. A part of it was showing up and doing this video authentically, but trying not to be so polished. So something I'll reinforce with these YouTube videos is I'm trying to share to you a guy's experience who's lived the nice guy patterns and he's still trying to recover from that and have that show up and be integrated into his relationships here. So I try to do the least editing possible on these videos. Today with me, we've had a nice natural environment. And to be honest with you, I was recording this on the Canon M50 before, which is what I use for these videos, if you've been wondering, but one of the mics dropped out. So we're just on the iPhone today. So I want to bring you guys another man's experience of living as a nice guy and trying to recover through that. So I'll keep delving into some of the works of, Dr. Robert Glover and his book, among some other authors and I guess experts in the area, if we want to call it that. But at times too, I feel like direct experience, rather than just bombarding you with more information, can be a little bit more relatable than, listening to the author of the book or listening to another podcast with a bunch of experts on a panel talking about a certain subject. So let me know if that's more helpful for you guys too. I'm always open to feedback, as I am with our community. If you are a Brisbane-based local, or even at the Gold Coast or Sunny Coast, and you want to come down one weekend, we still have a 2-week free trial, so you can just show up for a free session. The men's session is every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. We do a run or a walk with some breath work and a men's circle discussion on topics like this, and it's really helping some of the guys in their relationships and in their lives. So I'd love to see you down there if you're a Brisbane local. Otherwise, we'll see what we can do in the online space in the future. That's enough out of me today, guys. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time.